Hi everyone, it's Nishti here, and today we are going to share with you the one magic skill required to manage a picky eater. Now, most of my referrals as a dietitian are picky eaters, and therefore I've asked this wonderful lady, Janet, who is a social worker. She's also a mindfulness conscious parenting coach. She's trained with the best psychologist in the world, Dr. Shefali, and she's also a hypnotherapist. I've asked her to come on to this interview and share with us this magic skill, because I think way too often we believe that a reward chart and praising our children and ignoring them at meal times is going to help them to eat better. But I am going to tell you now that all those extrinsic factors don't work. We need to look at it from a mindfulness point of view. So Janet, thank you so much for coming today. This interview is going to help so many people.
Thank you for having me, Nishti.
Fantastic. So most of my referrals, Janet, are to do with a picky eater. So children who don't want to eat what parents put in front of them, lots of stress and anxiety around meal times. And often, yes, these children's diets are not what we would call optimal. And as a dietitian, I was told to do the following, to tell parents the following. So create a reward chart, and if they eat their vegetables, give them a sticker, and praise them at meal times. Oh, well done for eating your carrots. Well done for eating your carrots. And all these, I now look back and I can see it now because I've done so much work as well with Dr. Shefali. I just see how ineffective and it is, and it can actually, no, I wouldn't say cause harm, but it's definitely not going to help our children intrinsically, because we're just looking at things on the outside. So you are going to give us this magic skill required, and parents out there, I really hope that you're going to find this useful. So that's the story of most of my clients, Janet, is picky eaters. So do you have any sort of tips, first of all, that you want to share with the audience?
Well, I think when we're talking about this magic skill, Nishti, we're talking about boundaries, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So when we talk about boundaries, the first place we have to start is in ourself, because we think that putting a boundary means saying no to a child, saying, no, you can't have the cookie until you eat the carrot. That's a punishment, not a boundary, right?
Yeah.
Right? And a boundary means that we have to tune into ourselves first and find out what's going on with us. What feels askew? Are we feeling anxious about our child eating too much or eating too little, right? Are we feeling upset? Are we owning responsibility for their eating habits, right? The parent is not there to fix the child. There's nothing wrong with your child. Your child is absolutely perfect. And children live in the moment, in tune with their body. They're not going to eat if they're not hungry. They're just not going to.
Wow. So,
right?
And that's why I love conscious parenting.
Exactly.
It's all about looking at ourselves, and not trying to fix something on the outside, because parents come to me thinking I'm going to fix their child.
Yeah.
And now, after all this work, I now know that there's nothing to fix. And, some people don't like that because it's a lot harder, isn't it, to fix ourselves? But I don't know. So in terms of boundaries, because, I have started to tell parents that it's all about boundaries. And I always say that, you may say no, but do you really mean it? And I know that Dr. Shefali talks about sacred boundaries in her book. And that children know that when we say no, that we actually mean yes, because we feel guilty. We may feel fearful because we've said no. Why is it that we feel, why is it so hard to set a boundary?
because we don't hold them for ourselves. And there's this misconception about boundaries that if I set a boundary, that means I'm hurting you. But boundaries are really the highest form of self-care. So when we set a boundary, that says, I'm taking care of me. This is about me. It's not to hurt you, but as I take better care of me, then I will be able to take better care of you. So it is up to the parent to tune in first to what's going on inside of them around food issues. What are the family patterns? How did they grow up? What were the food issues that their parents put on them? Was it fear-based? Was it not enough? Was it, if you don't eat this, think about all the starving children in China story, right? You know, so it was fear, fear, fear. Was it that you're not allowed to have emotions or show them, so you, the parent, became someone who secretly ate or ate their emotions or starved yourself in order to be in control of emotions? This is the beginnings of eating disorders. And I think that parents really come from this good, loving place in their heart because they want their children to be healthy. They're trying to create healthy eaters for life. But what they're doing is they're attaching fear and anxiety to food.
Yes.
And so the child needs to control. So they're going to control the food that gets put in their mouth.
Yes.
Because the parent has control, so the child has control.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Really, that is, if you really get that, it's really life-changing. Mm-hmm. Because most of what we try and control is based on fear. So the child will feel that, right, Janet? So it's gonna, of course, they're gonna try and control their diet and control what mommy and daddy wants them to eat, because it's just coming from parental expectations. The parent is not necessarily seeing the child for who they are. They're concerned about, did you eat your vegetables? Did you do this? Did you do that? But there is more to it than just food. But I would say that our Eat Well guidelines have also contributed to a lot of fear, because most parents, and this is a very common one, they get very fearful if the child don't eat breakfast or don't eat 3 meals a day, and expectations and picky eaters. I think that's also an issue, isn't it? Parental expectations.
Exactly, because we buy into what culture has told us, right? So culture has told us, you know, the food pyramids, you know, that's what they call it here in the States, or they have a picture of the plate and how many portions should be, you know, dairy, meat, vegetable.
Don't even get me started on that one.
Yeah, so I mean, we have culture, government, you know, I don't know how it is in the UK, but in the United States, it's government telling us what these food pyramids should be. So parents, I think, have that in the back of the mind. So there's already a fear mentality in culture. So we internalize culture, and then we are kind of spitting it back out on our kids. They don't know it's coming from culture. They have no clue the government is dictating this. So we have to have enough boundaries for ourselves to separate from that and tap into our own internal, intrinsic truth about food and nutrition. And what does food really mean? And what does being healthy really mean? And are you modeling that for your kid? Or are you trying to force something on them that you don't actually do yourself? And what does a meal mean anyway? Who's defining what breakfast is, what lunch is, what dinner is? If your child wants to wake up and have a taco, let them have a taco.
With lots of salad.
Throw some lettuce in there, right? Put some fruit on the side. But look what you can still make a complete meal. It doesn't have to be a defined breakfast of what we
totally agree with that.
Right. And why not have pancakes for dinner?
Yeah, it's the food industry, isn't it?
Exactly.
Look at the cereal aisle here in the UK is full of breakfast cereals, full of sugar, and they promote it as breakfast cereal, but it's not. So
It's not.
all
It's
these
not.
things that coming from the outside that's bombarding us, and we have
Yeah.
lost touch with ourselves. So if
Right.
parents have lost touch with themselves,
Mm-hmm.
then obviously it's going to project onto their children. And actually,
Exactly.
yesterday I had a mom whose
Mm-hmm.
child is who eats emotion out of emotional eater, very young. And I said to the mom, because I'm now I'm now more confident when it comes to conscious parenting and asking these very deep questions. I said to the mom, "Do you emotionally eat?" And the mom
Right.
said, "Yes." And then she said, "And actually, I think my daughter has picked up." And that's how the conversation then started.
Right.
Because she came in wanting me to fix her child, but
Right.
then we ended up talking about her because, and this is not to blame parents. Please don't take this the wrong way. This is to say that our children copy us,
Right.
and our children will. What is it, Dr. Shafali say? They will show us where we are to heal.
Yes, where we need to grow. They're going to mirror back to us the aspects of ourself that where we need to grow and we need to heal, where we need to raise ourself. So if you as a mom or dad have always taken your emotions and put them to the side, your child is going to learn that it's not okay for them to bring their emotions to you. So maybe their palate just truly doesn't like this food you've put in front of them, but they're afraid to say it because it's not safe, because they know you have an expectation of them.
Oh,
So the only thing they can control is not to put it in their body.
that is profound. I've got goosebumps because children are, they want to, they're listening to themselves, aren't they? And
Yes.
actually they benefit from boundaries, as you said.
Mm-hmm.
But we parents are just full of fear and anxiety and guilt. Again, I had another mom the other day whose child is 15 months and still having a lot of milk. And I said,
Okay.
food is now more important. Food.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but she doesn't want to eat her food, so I give her milk. And I said,
Mm-hmm.
it's only natural. She wants to come and have some breast milk, but you need to set a boundary. You need to give her food. And the mom said, oh, but I just feel guilty if I say no.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to her, it's actually kind of selfish, isn't it, Janet? Because we're thinking about ourselves and it's all about our guilt and our fears and all our issues.
Exactly. With that, sorry, Nishti.
Yeah. And how about our children? They just want a boundary, but you're too hooked up on your own sense of guilt, fear, anxiety.
Right. So with that mom, I would dive into the fear. What is the fear?
Yeah.
If you don't give your child the breast milk?
We actually went, because Dr. Shafali's way of deconstructing.
Yeah.
I did that with this client, and it was a very irrational fear. She will starve, and that's because she'd grown up with a mom who said, you need to eat all your food because look at the children, and she's from Colombia. And it's just interesting when we really dig deep into our fears. They make no sense, really, do they?
No, they don't. But what happened in the deeper mind when something like this presents, and this is a great example because I think it happens in so many homes, no matter the age of the child, there's a trigger point in the parent where that fear got stuck in the deeper mind. So when that fear gets stuck, say at 4, because mom has been giving this message about, look at all the starving children, look at all the starving children, look at all the starving children. 4-year-olds are very literal. So it just knows no eating equals starving. And so when that fear comes up about not eating equals starving, the now adult mom at 30 years old is not acting from a place with the wisdom of a 30-year-old. She is reacting from the emotional place of the 4-year-old who believed not eating equals starving, and that's scary. Yeah. So we really have to dig back in, and we have to go back and heal at the origin of these faulty beliefs, because that's all they are, is faulty beliefs.
I love that.
And then we bring that wisdom forward And
Yes.
we heal the 4-year-old and say, we're not 4 anymore. The deeper mind has no sense of time. It does not know you're 30.
Yeah.
When that feeling comes up, it still believes you're 4.
Wow. And this is to do with all fears, whether it's to do
Whatever it
with food
is.
or not. We all
Nothing. Yeah.
have them, and it's about digging deep into the layers of where
Yes.
does this fear come from? And that's really
Exactly.
how to change your life, isn't it?
Yes, exactly.
Otherwise,
That's
it's
exactly.
dictating. You're trying
Mm-hmm.
to control things, such
Mm-hmm.
as the way that your child eats.
Exactly.
Now, what I also find, I don't know what you think about this, Janet, is that
Okay.
most people who struggle with boundaries, most of these parents who I see who struggle with boundaries, they lack self-care. They do
Mm,
not look after themselves, and they are often people that can't say no, and not just to their child but to their partner or work colleagues, because when we dig into boundaries, all this stuff comes up. And I always find that, especially mothers, because they've been conditioned to, we are the caregivers. Looking after ourselves equals guilt. We feel guilty if we actually take an hour off and don't look after the kids. And so there is this really, it's a deeper problem, right? It's this, there are no boundaries in any of the layers of life.
yeah, because people don't feel allowed. They don't feel entitled. But that didn't just pop up now. It's always been there. So when the mom is putting down the food, I would ask the moms and dads, I don't want to only say mom, the parents out there that are listening, to kind of do an ecology check in their body and ask themselves a few questions. Take a pause and ask, what's my expectation about my child eating this meal? What feelings are coming up for me right now? Am I anxious? Am I scared? Am I upset? Am I overly invested? And pause
Wow.
and let it go. Like, take a big exhale. Mastin Kipp talks about taking a big exhale, a short inhale and a big exhale to really release it from your body. Then serve the food.
So you're doing an inner check. What are my
That's right.
expectations? Why am I fearful?
Mm-hmm.
So you're like talking to yourself.
Exactly. We all come in with a story. I do it myself. My children are older. They're 21, 20, and 14. And, I still make dinner most nights. And I still get upset when someone doesn't say, oh, mom, this is good, or just give me any feedback, because I've slaved away in the kitchen. I've planned the meal. I've done the food shopping, right? Give me some feedback, folks. And we don't get it. And then we get triggered and maybe angry. So then who the hell wants to eat with someone there's an angry person at the table, right?
Yeah.
So I think we all, myself included, no one's perfect. We're all works in progress. We all need to be constantly tuning in, especially around food. I was working with one of my clients yesterday. She has an almost 4-year-old, and the little girl had a temper tantrum in the morning and then asked for an Oreo cookie before breakfast. And the mother knew enough to hold her boundaries. She was like, I'm not letting her have an Oreo. And then when the child calmed down, she asked for oatmeal. And she got the Oreo after the oatmeal, which was fine. But she really struggles with control issues because the little girl wants to be more autonomous and the mother wants to be in control of the food. So I
Yes.
suggested to her, and I don't know what you think about this as a dietitian, is having for this child a drawer or a shelf that the child can reach independently, or a bowl in the fridge that is just hers, that when she wants a snack, when she needs to make a choice about food, she can go to it herself. And the things that are there for her to pick from are the healthy choices the mother chose ahead of time.
I love that, because you're basically saying to your child, I trust you to pick your own snacks when you wish to.
Right. So
Not
here are
that
your
here,
choices.
yeah. That is magnificent. I'm actually going to use that.
Okay, good. I'm glad as a dietitian
Really
you
good.
agree. But, so we want to always encourage our children to be autonomous. And we want them to have agency, which means they have confidence in themselves to make their own decisions. So when we're holding too tight to controlling them, they can't.
Yeah.
And they're going to control back. And one of the few things they can control is food, which is why, as you know, people wind up with eating disorders. It comes from emotional pain, whether people overeat and have weight issues, or they have eating disorders like bulimia or anorexia, right? Where they're controlling their food intake that way. It's all about control.
It's all about the mind, isn't it? Our relationship with food is a direct reflection of our relationship with ourselves. So if you can't stop eating, and you don't know how to say no, you're lacking boundaries, which will also translate into you perhaps not having any boundaries when it comes to what you eat, and what you pick and choose. And so it's a lot deeper than just a reward chart and praising our children.
Yes.
So what can parents do? How do we start? Because I don't know what you think as a conscious parenting coach. Is that I always take the focus away from food.
Yeah.
Because as I said, it's not about the food. It's about the relationship we have with ourselves. So if parents have a picky eater, obviously there is a lack of boundaries. So we talk about boundaries, and then I help them to find one area in their life where they need to put a boundary down, or they need to, in terms of what fills us emotionally, they need to do more of that, because that's also filling your own cup and actually setting a boundary to look after yourself. So I don't know what you think about that, Janet. That's usually what I tell people.
You're talking about self-care.
Yeah.
Really, you're talking about self-care. And I think when it comes specifically to food, because that's what we're talking about, we really need to talk about emotional self-care.
Yeah.
We really, that's the key, because these issues we have with food as adults with our children are not our children's fault.
Yeah.
They didn't make us yell at them over not eating, send them to bed without their dinner because they didn't eat. Those are our reactions from long-held beliefs, from pain, from the ways we had to learn to survive as children. And so we still believe we're in survival mode. So the boundaries are, I don't want parents to mishear this, that boundaries mean I have to set rules with my children over food. No.
Yeah.
Boundaries mean tuning in and looking at yourself, and what are the self-care boundaries you need to create for yourself, and what do you need to understand about yourself, about how your boundaries were either broken or not allowed to be in place or not validated as you grew up. Because if it didn't happen then, and you haven't done any healing work, you haven't been in therapy, you haven't worked on yourself in some way, the lack of boundaries within is still there. And that's just getting projected out to your child.
Wow, that is deep. I love that. I wish we could do like a role play, because that is really profound.
I mean, we can do a role play if we have time, or we do it another time.
I'm just thinking, if we could have we could imagine this parent who's lacking boundaries, and then go back to her childhood. What sort of scenario can you think of that may have led to her now being 35, lacking boundaries, being overweight herself, having a picky eater? What is it in her childhood that could have done that?
So are you willing to play this mom who's 35 and overweight and has a picky eater? Okay, so let's do this for a few minutes then. So we're just going to role play right into a session here. So, hi, Nishti. How are you today?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So, tell me what's come up for you during the week. I know we've been talking about all these food issues with your kids and mealtime and what's been difficult. Tell me what's happening.
But I just really struggle with my child. They just, I've done everything that the dietitian told me to do, reward chart, praising my child, and all they want to do is to eat chicken nuggets and chips, and they don't want to eat my meals, and I find it very hard. I feel meal times are so stressful, and I've just had enough because I've got other things that I need to do.
Yeah. So, yeah, so meal times are stressful, huh?
Yeah, really
Yeah.
stressful.
So, do me a favor for a minute. What's the last meal time that you had with your children that was stressful? When was that?
Oh, it was this morning.
This morning. Okay, so draw that out for me. Like, what happened at breakfast?
So, my child wanted toast, so I made the toast, and then they only had a few bites, and then they said they wanted oatmeal, and I gave him some oatmeal, and even that was just played with, and then he hardly ate anything, and then he
Mm-hmm.
wanted pancakes, and I didn't make the pancakes, so there's no time for that. But obviously the problem is now that it's now 10 a.m. and it was 10 a.m. before, and he's asked for more food because he's hungry. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
ate his breakfast, we wouldn't have to make another meal at 10 a.m.
Mm.
But
So,
I made him some toast
mm-hmm.
at 10 a.m.
Mm-hmm. So let's go back to 10 a.m. when you were making him toast and oatmeal.
Mm.
And I want you to imagine Nishti standing in the kitchen with her child as he's asking for the toast, and he only eats 3 or 4 bites. And then he goes, well, now can I have oatmeal? So you make the oatmeal, and then he only just sort of plays with it and doesn't really eat. So do me a favor, close your eyes a second, take a breath, and just tune into your physical body. Where is this feeling of stress coming up as you're continually giving your child what they ask for, but yet it doesn't get eaten?
Right here.
Right there. Okay, yeah, in your upper abdomen. In
Solar
we've talked
plexus.
before, right, about chakras, and that's your solar plexus chakra. Yeah, so tune into your solar plexus a little bit more. Take another breath, and imagine you could see what that feeling looks like. And just describe that feeling to me as if you could draw me a picture.
It's like, you take a piece of paper and you
Crumple it.
crumple
Mm-hmm.
it. That's how it
Mm-hmm.
feels like.
Yeah, and what color is that crumpled up piece of paper?
It's got a bit of like brown. It looks a bit
Mm.
rusty.
Mm-hmm. Sure, that makes a lot of sense. Take another breath. And I want you to just imagine going back in time to the very first time you felt that rusty, crumpled up piece of paper right there in your solar plexus. When would that be?
Oh, that was when I was on my bicycle.
Mm-hmm.
I hurt myself.
Mm-hmm.
I was being told off and told I could never ride my bicycle again.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. So what's the feeling that comes up with being told off that you can't ride the bike again when all you did was fall off and get hurt?
Just powerlessness. Upset.
Powerlessness. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So what did you begin to believe about yourself based on this feeling of powerlessness?
That I can't do things right,
Mm-hmm.
and that I have to listen to my
Mm.
parents,
Yeah.
and yeah, I need to listen to them because they know best.
Right. So I want you to, how old is that little girl that fell off her bike?
7. 7.
7. So I want you to ask your adult self now, who's a mom herself, to go over to that 7-year-old and give her a great big hug. And let her know that accidents happen and she didn't do anything wrong. Yeah, I see you're smiling. How's that little girl responding to that?
I have goosebumps, Janet.
Yeah.
That is lovely. This is actually
Yeah.
true.
Okay, good.
True story.
Good. Stay with it then.
Yeah.
Yeah. So give her a hug. Yeah. How does she respond to that?
She is so happy.
Yeah. Yeah. She shut down that day, believing that, she was doing something wrong and she better toe the line or she was going to get in trouble, and she really can't make a mistake, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that powerless has played out in Nishti's life as she grew up and became a mom and is now standing in the kitchen with her son.
Wow. Oh my God, that makes so much sense.
Yeah. So you
We
see,
lost the power and we're giving it away. We have no
yes,
boundaries and we can't say no.
right. So as you stand in the kitchen with your son and you're feeling powerless because he's controlling the food, which he's allowed to make his choice for the food, but then you're also allowed to say, no, you're done. Or maybe it needs to be approached in a different way. Here are your food choices. So you have some power. You're creating the box, because boundaries are creating the box for our children. And we let them do whatever they need to inside the box, but we create the box. So the boundary is you can have toast or oatmeal.
Aha. Mm-hmm.
Which one? And then whatever he eats. You walk away, or maybe you stay in the kitchen and have a connected conversation while he's eating.
Oh,
And that helps him eat more. So you see this, and there's more work we can do with that powerless little girl. This was just a fraction just to get there to show you, but you can see, who would have ever expected a fall off your bike at 7 would impact how you're parenting your child around food now, all these years later at 35.
that's why inner work is the way forward, and we all
That's right.
need it. And conscious parenting, I know you've just graduated from Dr.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Your conscious parenting coach. You do this with parents. This is the way to heal this relationship and to overcome a picky eater. This is the magic skill. Incredible. I'm so glad we did this role play, Janet.
Thank you. Me too, Nishti. It's been
So
fun and an honor that you invited me.
Oh, thank you so much.
So much fun. So much fun.
We could go on and on. So
yes, I know.
It's just so wonderful. I personally love this work because it's all about looking within and healing yourself and become the version of you that you are meant to be.
That's right. And that's what I'm passionate about. Yeah.
So
that's what I'm passionate about. I love to help people heal. I've been doing this so long. And combining conscious parenting with inner child work, yes. It's this beautiful, beautiful coming together of the two worlds. I've been a hypnotherapist since 2002. It's a long time. So, I love to offer my services to people who want to take advantage, who are ready to take that deep dive into healing and really change the patterns that are playing out in their life now with their children.
See, and that's why I know, and I feel very honored that people want to use a dietitian. But I discovered a few years ago that it's not about the dietitian and it's not about the food. It's a lot deeper than that. So, and that's why even the work that I've done with Dr. Shafali has really helped me. Because I feel like I can bring a different twist to things. But what you've just done now is magnificent. So if anyone thought this was just wonderful and they would want further help and support, Janet does offer online consultations. So I'll put all her details down below, a link to our website as well. Please feel free to ask us any questions that you may have, any comments, and like and share this video. Janet, this was wonderful. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Nishti.
You want to finish off with?
I kind of think we covered it all. Honor yourself, set up those boundaries, know that boundaries are self-care.
Yeah.
And pay attention to your feelings.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.